The shocking dark secret of King Solomon revealed at midnight, must watch before it's removed. As the clock struck 12, shadows stretched across the ancient stone walls of a secret underground chamber, whispering tales of a man long gone but never forgotten. King Solomon, the wisest ruler in history, known for his lush opulence and unearthly prowess, concealed a dark truth, one that could shatter the foundations of everything we believe. His power wasn't merely of this world, it came from something otherworldly, something written in codes lost to time, until now. The earth trembled at the thought of what was buried beneath King Solomon's throne, pulsing like a heartbeat in the midnight silence. Beneath the glimmering sands of Jerusalem lay a labyrinth filled with cryptic texts, each word thicker with mystery than the last. Not just any texts, but scrolls that spoke of demons coaxed into servitude and treasures that promised death to those who sought them recklessly. Rumors spread like wildfires in dry grass. Those who dared to seek these scrolls either vanished without a trace or turned into husks of their former selves, eyes glassy, haunted by shadows that devoured their very souls. And tonight a night cloaked in legend would be different. A small group of thrill-seekers, their hearts racing, gathered at an old, crumbling library rumored to hold the key to Solomon's darkest secrets. Gasps filled the air as David, the self-proclaimed leader, uncovered a fragile parchment, its edges frayed like a memory on the edge of oblivion. It glowed faintly under the dim light, inciting goosebumps as whispers of cautions filled the room. "Do you hear that?" Maria's voice trembled, a nervous laugh escaping her lips. The air crackled with energy, fear and excitement danced like flames in their eyes. But just as they began deciphering the ancient script, a loud bang echoed through the chamber. A book fell from the shelf, hitting the floor with a thud that sent them jumping. What was that? Jake shouted, wide-eyed. The walls seemed to close in, and a chill crept down their spines. Their enthusiasm began to wane, replaced by real terror. Where had the sound come from? What was lurking in the shadows? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads-up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the laughter faded into an uneasy silence, the light flickered. Shadows danced on the walls as if taunting them. It was then they found a hidden trapdoor beneath an ancient rug, its edges stained with time. With pounding hearts, they exchanged glances filled with both dread and thrill. The door creaked open, revealing darkened stone steps spiraling into an abyss. Should we go down?" Sarah whispered, unable to suppress the trembling in her voice. They all felt it, an irresistible pull, a call from within the depths of Solomon's legacy. But as they hesitated, a low growling reverberated from the darkness below. It wasn't just the dark secrets they would uncover, it was the absent whispers that clawed at their sanity. Now, curiosity surged against their fears. What awaited them? The very essence of Solomon's strength, or perhaps, the fate of their very souls? A single thought hung in the air, suspended like a breath held too long: who will emerge from the depths of King Solomon's secret? As they stared into the yawning abyss of the trapdoor, a mix of trepidation and exhilaration coursed through the group. Jake was the first to break the silence, his voice quivering. This could change everything. We could be the ones who uncover Solomon's lost power. David nodded, but the steely resolve in his eyes faltered. The growling intensified, reverberating off the stone walls, turning the air thick with tension. "We need to stick together. No one goes alone," he barked, trying to maintain control, though he could feel his own heart racing. Maria shot a glance at the door, a flicker of doubt crossing her face. "What if we find something dangerous? Or amazing?" countered Sarah, a bit more enthusiastic than her fear would allow. Her eyes danced with a mixture of fear and fascination. a reflection of her inner conflict. One by one, they gripped the edges of the trapdoor and descended into the depths, the flickering light from their phones barely illuminating the rugged, uneven steps. Each thud of their shoes echoed ominously, a rhythm matching the pounding of their hearts. The air grew damp and cold, as if the darkness itself was alive, enveloping them like a suffocating shroud. As they reached the bottom, the narrow corridor opened into a subterranean chamber, the size of a small room. A foul stench assailed their nostrils, like the decay of forgotten time. Stalagmites rose from the ground like twisted fingers reaching for the ceiling, damp with moisture. "Look!" David shouted, pointing at a stone pedestal in the center of the room. Upon it lay a single, ornate box, shimmering under a beam of moonlight that broke through a crack in the ceiling. The box was adorned with intricate designs that seemed to writhe and shift as they stared. "My God, is that it?" whispered Jake, stepping closer. Suddenly, the growling surged, louder and more insistent, reverberating through the very stone they stood on. Panic struck. "We should go back. We're not alone." Maria's voice quivered, her wide eyes darting toward the shadows closing in. "Wait." David stepped forward, drawn by a magnetism he couldn't understand. "We can't just leave it here. What if there's without warning?" The box erupted open. A flash of blinding light enveloped them, shocking them into silence. The growling morphed into a cacophony of whispers, thousands of voices overlapping. "Release, unleash," they chanted, filled with a gravelly urgency that scraped against their sanity. Jake staggered back, gripping his head as the voices surged within him, seeping through the cracks in his mind. "Stop! Stop it!" he screamed, but it was too late. Shadows lashed out from the depths of their fears, swirling around them, clawing at their skin as the whispers drove deeper. "You have awoken the guardians. You must pay the price." In that moment, realization hit hard. This was not merely a discovery, it was a summoning. A dread coiled in their stomachs. What price would they have to pay, and who among them would make the ultimate sacrifice? Just then, a figure emerged from the shadows, cloaked in darkness, an otherworldly glow emanating from its face, half human and half something else entirely. "You seek knowledge? Then face the consequences of your curiosity." With terror locking their hearts, the group recoiled. What exactly had they unleashed upon themselves? As the chill of dread coursed through them, a singular question lingered in the air, as heavy as the darkness pressing in: were they ready to confront the forces they had awakened? A heavy silence fell over the chamber as the figure's luminous eyes locked onto each of them, filled with a piercing knowledge that seemed to see through their very souls. "You are trespassers in my domain," its voice echoed, sounding like rocks grinding together, rough and sharp. "You seek what should remain hidden, and now you will learn the price of your ambition." Jake felt his knees tremble, the weight of unnameable fears pulling him down. Who are you?" he barely managed to whisper. The figure straightened, its silhouette shifting in the dark. "I am a guardian of the ancient secrets, a keeper of the chaos you have awakened. Long ago, Solomon harnessed powers beyond comprehension. Powers that should not be unearthed. Then, you're here to stop us." Maria's voice was a fragile whisper, her breath quickening. "Stop you?" It chuckled, a sound that echoed through the very core of the chamber. It was a harsh, cruel sound, devoid of warmth. "No, foolish child, I am here to guide you through the reckoning that is to come. You have awakened forces that demand a reckoning. Your ignorance has stakes far greater than you can understand." "What stakes?" Sarah's voice cracked, adrenaline fueling her defiance. "What do you want from us?" "The toll will be paid in blood, for knowledge always comes with a price." The guardian stepped closer, the air around it crackling with energy, and the shadows writhed on the walls like snakes. "Each of you carries a burden. The choices you made to arrive here will echo for eternity." David held on to Jake's arm like a lifeline. "We want to let you take us. We want to know the truth," he shouted, his voice steady, though inside he felt like crumbling. The figure paused, tilting its head. "Ah, a longing to understand. But the truth can be a double-edged sword. With every revelation comes a choice, a sacrifice that must be borne. A shiver ran through the group like a tangible wave. The whispers intensified, mingling with the growls, a chorus calling to them from the darkness. Fear twisted in Jake's gut. What choice would they have to make? As if the guardian could hear his thoughts, a smile flickered across its unnatural face. Choose wisely. One among you must step forward to claim the knowledge you seek. The guardian of Solomon's power is merciless, and it demands loyalty. In exchange for clarity, someone must be willing to give their life essence. Horrified gasps escaped the group. Panic erupted, voices overlapping in frantic noise. No. We can't. Maria cried, backing away from the figure. This can't be real. Yet reality felt all too sharp and cold as the walls of the chamber seemed to close in, forcing them back against each other. The air thickened with dread, a weighty silence punctuated by the guardian's low, ominous laughter. What is your choice? It intoned, the shadows around it swirling like a storm. Across the dark chamber, they exchanged terrified glances, anxiety palpable in their clenched jaws and trembling hands. Their instincts screamed for escape, yet the temptation of power loomed like a black hole in the depths of their souls. As the shadows drew closer, a deep rumble echoed again, shaking the ground beneath them. An unsettling realization gripped them, the decision loomed ever-present, a precipice upon which they teetered. And somewhere in that very moment, as the air crackled with anticipation, a voice surged from the depths of Jake's mind, a desperate plea mingled with fierce determination. "I'll do it," he found himself saying, the words spilling uncontrollably, like blood onto a sacrificial stone. "I'll pay the price." Stunned silence enveloped the group, as horror washed over their faces. What had he just unleashed? "Jake, no!" David shouted, reaching out, but the shadows swarmed around him, tightening like a noose. The guardian's glow pulsed in excitement, and an overwhelming wave of fear engulfed them all, leaving them teetering on the brink of oblivion. As the echoes of Jake's offer hung in the air, the haunting whispers grew louder, demanding attention, as the chamber trembled in anticipation. What choice would be made next, and would it lead to salvation or damnation? The very essence of their fate was about to unfold. Jake's heart raced, the weight of his decision crashing down on him like a wave. The guardian's eyes glowed brighter, a menacing dance of light that filled the chamber. Shadows twisted and curled, hungry for him as if sensing his vulnerability. Fear flickered in his friend's eyes, giving way to disbelief and betrayal. "What have you done?" Maria's voice quivered, her fear morphing into something angrier. "You can't just volunteer for this. We're a team together." "Together?" Jake's throat tightened. "What good is that if we all die here, lost and confused? Maybe this is our only chance to find out what's really happening. Consider your offer, boy." The guardian's voice washed over them, dark and rich like molasses. "Your essence, Jake, will give you knowledge, power, but also chains. Are you ready to bind yourself to the ancient evil of Solomon?" The air felt alive, buzzing with energy that surged from the dark figure. Jake swallowed hard, the words hanging like a smog that made it hard to think. Chains. What his mind raced with images of power, knowledge, and vengeance. "I'm not afraid of anything." David, standing by his side, shook his head vigorously, disbelief etched across his sharp features. "I can't let you do this. You don't know what it means." "No one does." Jake snapped back. "But I can't let fear drive me anymore. We came for answers, and I'll take that risk." Laughter erupted from the guardian, a chilling sound that echoed through the chamber like stones crashing together. "A brave young man, or a fool? Only time will tell." The shadows stirred violently, wrapping around Jake, pulling him towards the guardian. He felt a cold grip around his throat. Panic surged. "Wait. I didn't mean," but the guardian's touch was unrelenting. "No going back now. The price has already been set, young one. The atmosphere thickened as dark energy swirled around him. The whispers crescendoed, filling his ears with chaotic sound, seeping into his mind, pulling at every strand of thought. Images of Solomon appeared, each one darker than the last. His power had led to ruin, betrayal, madness. "Choose your pursuit, Jake," the guardian urged, more puppet master than teacher. "What do you seek within this chaos? Power or wisdom?" His heartbeat thundered louder, drowning out everything: his friends, the shadows, the agony of his choice. "Power!" Jake shouted, uncertain yet resolute, feeling the dark energy flow into him. "I want to understand." Jake's body felt heavier as echoes of ancient secrets intertwined with his blood. It consumed him, the darkness bleeding into his veins, twisting and morphing his very essence. The chamber turned molten, shadows erupting as they clawed at him. "Wrathful spirits unleashed from eons of imprisonment," Maria screamed. Her voice cut through the darkness, horrified. "Jake, fight it. Don't let it take you." Moments stretched, heavy and agonizing. The notion of sacrifice weighed on him. One decision, one mistake, and everything could come crashing down. Suddenly, images of his friends flashed before his eyes: moments of laughter, support, and desperation. Each one was a reminder of the bonds they shared. Could he betray them for the sake of this power? Then, as if reading his thoughts, the guardian hissed, "Doubt yourself and lose everything. Choose again, or embrace your doom." Jake felt himself teetering. The overwhelming rush of power filled him with dread, stealing his breath. "I don't want this," he yelled, desperation clawing at his chest. The guardian's grip tightened. "Then choose, boy. Embrace the darkness and become its master, or release the power and risk annihilation." With a fierce determination born from fear and love, Jake roared defiantly, "I reject your chains. I choose my friends." Yet as the words left his lips, a sickening pulse throbbed in the chamber. Was this enough to break the curse? Or had he merely signed their death warrant? In that moment of surge, the chamber trembled. Shadows howled in fury, threatening to envelop them all, and what came next was a chilling silence, a promise of whispers that would echo deeply in their hearts. Was his choice truly freeing, or was it just the beginning of a dark nightmare? All at once, the ground split apart, flames dancing below. The guardian laughed, the sound drenched in chaos. "The reckoning has only just begun." The earth quaked violently beneath Jake's feet as the shadows writhed, swirling like a storm about to break. The cacophony of whispering voices filled the space, slithering into their minds, sowing seeds of doubt and fear. Each pulse of energy felt like a blade cutting into his resolve, blurring the line between choice and madness. Maria pulled at Jake's arm, her grip vice-like. "We need to get out of here. Now." Panic flared in her eyes, and for a second, Jake thought he could see the trust she'd once held flicker like a dying ember. "Listen to her," David shouted, stepping closer, his own face pale and twisted in concern. "We can't fight this." Jake shook his head. His heart thundered fiercely. "But what if this is our only shot? What if?" Before he could finish, the guardian's laughter rumbled through the chamber, echoing with an eerie finality. "You are more entwined in the fate of Solomon than you realize, boy. Allow yourself to explore or perish." The shadows shrieked in fury, and suddenly they were drawn back together, thrashing like a tempest. Every inch of the chamber pulsed, as if it were alive, trying to engulf them in chaotic despair. The fiery cracks in the floor widened, belching smoke that smelled of burnt dreams and lost hopes. "Jake!" Maria's voice broke through the noise, urgent and raw. "Don't let it take you. You can still fight." Fight? How could he fight when the very essence of darkness offered him unimaginable power? Did power come without chains? His mind spun like a top, teetering on the edge of clarity and despair. With a tense intake of breath, Jake closed his eyes. Visions surged through him, images of Solomon's reign, his rise, opulence, and the devastating fall. With each flickering memory, Jake felt the burden of history crashing into his shoulders. The shadows seemed to pulse with every revelation, stroking his insecurities, tormenting his thoughts. Knowledge begets power. The guardian crooned, a tone dripping with mocking allure. Or are you content to remain a pawn? Blind to the true depths of your potential? No. He couldn't let the guardian's words wrap themselves around him, manipulative and twisting. But what if he truly was weak? Fear crept into the back of his mind, a whispered echo that told him he was unworthy of greatness, unworthy of leading his friends into the light. A deep, primal scream clawed at his insides as he fought against the chaos. I want to understand, but not like this. I want to be just a vessel for darkness. Suddenly, the cavern fell silent, as if the shadows hesitated, sensing his defiance. The ground stilled beneath them, but the air remained electric, thick with potential. Jake, trembling, opened his eyes, locking onto the guardian. Then embraced the truth. The guardian bellowed, the shadows writhing again, but this time their movements were erratic, pausing as if waiting for something. Jake's heart raced. What truth? He challenged, his voice shaking but fierce. Only in understanding Solomon's sins can you suppress his lust for power. The guardian roared, a flicker of something raw in its eyes. Sacrifice for knowledge. Wisdom demands it. The weight of its words hung thick and heavy. Was this the key? Would acquiring Solomon's knowledge come with a price, his own humanity? Behind the guardian's fury, a glint of desperation lingered. Maria squeezed Jake's arm. We can do this together. We're stronger as one. Jake's pulse steadied. They had always been greater together. But could he truly embrace what Solomon represented without losing himself? Could he find a way to turn the darkness against itself? As he battled with his thoughts, bright light burst from within him, clashing with the shadows. It surged dramatically, radiating warmth amidst the cold chaos. What if love and connection were the true power he sought? A blinding flash erupted, momentarily halting the spirals of darkness, forcing the guardian to recoil, surprise etched in its features. Jake could feel it. This was a moment of choice. Would he choose to face the very essence of darkness and break its chains forever? The ground trembled once more, and with a deafening roar, the chamber began to collapse. Reality splintered under the pressure of newly found hope. As the world around them spiraled and twisted, Jake faced the guardian, his resolve hardening. I choose to fight against you, against Solomon. But even as the declaration left his lips, an unearthly scream erupted from the shadows, plunging them back into chaos. Would his choice be their savior, or would it seal their fate in the abyss of darkness? With adrenaline coursing through his veins, Jake swallowed hard, braced for the worst because the real storm was about to break loose. The ground shook violently, sending shards of rock flying as the echoes of Jake's defiance reverberated through the chamber. He felt the weight of the shadows, pressing against him like an unseen force, wrestling to reclaim him. His heart hammered in his chest, primal instincts screaming at him to flee, to submit, to surrender. Jake! Maria's voice cut through the tumult again, a beacon of clarity amidst the mayhem. Hold on to me. We can't lose each other. He reached for her, instinctively seeking the connection that fortified his resolve. With fingers clasped tightly around hers, Jake turned to David, their eyes mirroring the same desperate determination. The guardian twisted, its form shifting like smoke, angry and alive. Your bonds mean nothing in the shadow of Solomon's legacy. You're merely playing into the hands of your own demise. No. Jake shouted, grounding himself in the moment. We won't let fear dictate who we are. And then it happened. The light within him surged again, brighter, more intense. It was like a fire igniting in the cold dark, driving back the shadows. He felt a swell of warmth envelop them as light cascaded like liquid gold, illuminating the cavern walls with ancient symbols and the remnants of sacrifice. His pulse synchronized with the flickering glow. Sacrifice for knowledge. The guardian's voice twisted into a howl. You think you can defy Solomon's will? People suffered for that power. Jake's grip tightened. He realized then, the essence of Solomon wasn't just darkness. It was a warning, a cautionary tale of overreach, of ambition untempered by conscience. This isn't about seeking power. It's about dismantling it. The shadows recoiled, retreating momentarily against the force of Jake's newfound conviction. The ground shifted once more, but his feet held firm. David's voice, ragged yet steady, piped up beside him. If Solomon fell because of his greed, let us build on that truth instead. Maria's eyes sparkled with unshed determination. Together, they formed a circle, hands locked, fingers tightening as they shared their strength. The light pulsed outward, weaving an intricate web of brilliance that clashed boldly against the swirling darkness. Jake could feel Solomon's torment, his cry echoing through centuries of isolation and regret. Your legacy ends here. Jake shouted into the void. We rewrite it. At that moment, the air thickened with energy, a surge that felt almost sentient. The Guardian lunged forward, a wrathful specter determined to reclaim its hold. But as it reached for them, the light flared, bathing the chamber in a radiance that momentarily blinded. In the midst of the chaos, a single flash carved through the noise, a fleeting vision manifested before Jake. A crystal shimmering, ethereal flickered into view, suspended in the air. Take it. The Guardian screamed, desperation tainting its rage. What is it? Maria gasped, awareness beginning to dawn. It's the heart of Solomon's power. David shouted, realization dawning. That crystal holds the key. We need to reach it. Jake felt it calling to him. With urgency pulsing through his veins, he broke free from their grasp and lunged toward the shimmering heart, time stretching as shadows clawed at his heels. But as his fingers grazed the crystal, a wave of euphoria and despair rushed through him, visions swirling in dizzying speed, a kaleidoscope of Solomon's failures and dreams, agony intermingled with brilliance. Pain exploded in his chest, ripping through him as echoing cries resounded in his mind. Don't let the legacy claim you again. He heard Daniel's voice, but it was too late. The shadows tightened their grip, reclaiming a foothold as the chamber trembled beneath their weight. Jake struggled, caught in a tempest of regret and power. Reality shifted, and everything hung in a precarious balance, teetering on the edge of salvation and doom. Would he seize the heart of Solomon for understanding, or would it consume him whole? As the shadows surged forward in a final desperate push, Jake's breath caught in his throat, the line between light and dark blurred. Was the truth worth the price? The chamber cracked, the walls echoed, and then darkness rushed him, swallowing his scream. What awaited him beyond that shadow? Would light triumph over darkness, or was this the beginning of an irrevocable descent? The darkness enveloped Jake, dense and suffocating, like a heavy fog that clung to his skin. For a swirling moment, he felt unmoored, suspended in a void where the weight of fear pressed on him from all sides. He couldn't tell where the shadows ended and he began. And then, just as suddenly, a crack of light pierced through the suffocating black that he gasped, heart racing, straining to pull himself from the ghostly grip. The vision that clung to him like a haunting echo showed flashes of Solomon's life, glittering palaces, grand parades, and shadowy figures whispering in conspiratorial tones. Each scene throbbed with a betrayal older than time itself. Focus, Jake. David's voice broke through the disarray, snapping him back into reality. We need you. Jake tightened his jaw, battling the surge of despair threatening to claim him. He forced his mind to latch onto the glimmering crystal, the only beacon of hope in the chaos. He could feel its power thrumming beneath his fingertips, begging him to understand, to release it from its prison of shadows. Grasp it. Maria shouted from what felt like a faraway dream, her voice spinning through the air like a tether. Don't let it take you. With sheer willpower, Jake wrenched his focus toward the crystal. Each flickering facet seemed to pulse in rhythm with his heart. As he steadied himself, a profound energy infused his veins, merging with every ounce of his determination. He summoned memories of laughter, love, and the bonds he cherished. Together, Jake whispered, summoning the strength of his friends. We can break this curse. In a wave of rebellion, he clenched the crystal. Pain shot through him like a lightning bolt, but this pain was different, it carried knowledge. He could almost hear voices speaking through time, their laments stitched into the fabric of reality. Your legacy is a shattered mirror. The guardian shrieked, its form distorting in rage. You cannot escape this fate. Ignoring the haunting cries, Jake closed his eyes and envisioned the light within him blending with that of the crystal. He felt his essence meld with Solomon's. This wasn't just an exercise in power, it was an awakening. Eager to shatter the chains binding Solomon's spirit, Jake knew he had to confront what lay in the shadows. A surge swept through the cavern, a tidal wave against the darkness. The ground heaved beneath them, fissures cracking open like angry wounds. He could sense Maria and David regrouping, the force of their connection strengthening his resolve. Trust our bonds, David shouted, lifting his hands to the swirl of light surrounding them. We turn this darkness into freedom. With renewed purpose, Jake summoned the brilliant energy coursing from the crystal, and together they unleashed their collective will into the darkness. The light expanded outward, suffusing every inch of the chamber, igniting ancient symbols that had laid dormant too long. Even as the guardian screamed in protest, the shadows began to recoil, flickering frantically around the edges as if losing the battle. And then Jake felt it. A flash of reality shattered around him, the moment rewound, a vision forcing its way forward. He saw Solomon, not just as a shadowy figure of regret but as a man, a human filled with dreams twisted by greed. A giant seated on a throne of gold, but with eyes reflecting despair instead of glory. His truth can save us, Jake panted, understanding firing within him. We have to confront the darkness of his failures. The echoes of history intertwined with Jake's pulse, lifting him up. He felt power gathering in waves, ancient, raw, and ready to be released. But just as he prepared to channel that energy, the guardian lunged forward once more, a desperate final act of defiance. I will not be undone. It roared. Jake's heart raced. This was their moment, but they couldn't falter now. They had to see this through to the end. Could they rewrite the tale of Solomon and pull the world from the brink? Or would that guardian drag them into oblivion, a fate begrudgingly accepted, as the shimmering tide clashed? Violently against shadows, Jake felt the ground stabilize beneath him. The choice was in his hands now, but the outcome danced tantalizingly out of reach. Would they rise as champions or be trapped in Solomon's legacy forever? The guardian's anguished roar echoed through the cavern, shaking the very walls around them. Jake's heart pounded against his ribs, a wild drum announcing the impending storm. He felt the pulse of the crystal against his palm, vibrant and alive, a warning and a promise intertwined. We can do this, he muttered, barely audible over the cacophony. But doubt gnawed at the edges of his resolve. In that instant of sheer panic, a violent tremor surged through the ground. Sharp cracks spread like spiders across the stony floor, revealing glimpses of a deeper darkness lurking below. Shadows writhed, eager to claim any shred of light as the guardian clawed at the air, attempting to regain control. He's angry, Jake. Let it feed on his rage. Maria shouted, her voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. She fixed her gaze on the crystal, her fiery spirit anchoring Jake. We can twist that to our advantage. Jake nodded, pushing back the wave of fear washing over him. He gripped the crystal, feeling its energy ignite, ready to unleash. Okay, let us turn this around. With a breath steeped in determination, Jake began to channel the chaotic energy swirling around them. It was as if he were standing at the eye of a hurricane, every ounce of turbulence drawn to him like moths to a flame. Light cascaded from the crystal, bathing the chamber in a golden glow. Rise, Solomon, Jake called out, his voice ringing clear, cutting through the despair. Rise and face your truth. The air grew thick with tension, the swirling energy charging either towards freedom or doom. Before him, the shadows writhed in turmoil. The guardian's fury contorted its shape, morphing into an amalgamation of raw power and potent despair. But within that rage, Jake glimpsed something else: an old pain, a longing for redemption. "Remember who you were," he implored, locking eyes with the shadowy figure, hoping it could hear him beneath its howling fury. "Reclaim your humanity. Break free from the chains of regret." A moment stretched, raw and vulnerable, as the guardian faltered. The light from the crystal pierced deeper, illuminating Solomon as he fought to materialize from nothingness. The oppressive fog of despair began to shift, revealing hints of the man Solomon had been before darkness consumed him. In a flicker, Jake saw Solomon's delicate balance: one foot in light, the other in shadow. "It's within your grasp," he urged. "We know the burden you carry. Just let go." The guardian keened, its swirling mass retreating as the light pushed forward. Jake could feel the combined energy of David and Maria flowing around him, lending strength to his voice. Then, as if summoned by the fervor of their hope, a figure stepped forward from the shadows: Solomon. He appeared more solid now, wrestling against the bindings of darkness. Jake felt his heart leap. "Don't let him go. We're so close." But then, desperate claws lashed out from the darkness, aiming to seize Solomon once more. The guardian was relentless, using every trick in its power to reclaim control. "It wants to consume him," David yelled. "Fight harder." Jake fought against the internal struggle, feeling the power surge again, the crystal glowing brighter, almost blinding him. "Together," he shouted, as the trio channeled everything they had into Solomon's form, weaving threads of hope and light. Suddenly, bolts of energy exploded from the crystal into the chamber, illuminating the myriad faces of Solomon's anguish: the dreams, the loves, the betrayals. The guardian shrieked, its form writhing, fighting against the tide of unity. As the light pushed against the shadows, a deep rumble shook the ground, an earthquake of emotions threatening to tear the very essence of their reality apart. Jake felt the struggle within Solomon, the fierce battle between light and dark. But then, in the flickering moment when Jake felt confident victory was in reach, shadows coalesced into a vicious torrent, racing to extinguish the newfound light. "Jake, brace yourself," Maria shouted. What happened next was a clash too loud to ignore, a whirlwind of light and darkness. Would it seal their fate or liberate them? As the energy fluctuated violently, the ground beneath them trembled with uncertainty, leaving Jake breathless. What awaited them in the midst of chaos? Would Solomon rise, or would they be engulfed in the shadows forever? He knew they were at a precipice, the outcome teetering perilously close to oblivion. Choices had to be made, lives hung delicately in the balance. In that fleeting breath, Jake realized nothing could prepare them for what came next. The darkness surged, a living entity bent on reclaiming its own. Jake felt its wrath as it twisted around him, a suffocating shroud that whispered threats and cold promises. The guardianship he once thought was theirs weakened, battered by uncertainty and dread. Was this truly going to be the end? Sensing the shadows tightening their grip on Solomon, Jake's heart raced. Their voices were drowning out beneath the chaos. "Stay with me, Solomon," Jake called, desperation bleeding into every syllable. The eldritch roar filled the air again, shaking Jake to his core. Solomon, still half-formed, writhed as if pulled in two different directions, a haunting battle of essence and will. The light from the crystal pulsated like a heartbeat, fighting the encroaching darkness but flickering with doubt. "Lift him. We need to lift him toward the light," David cried, his eyes wide with fear. The urgency in his tone snapped through Jake, igniting something deep within. "Okay. On 3. Jake shouted, rallying his friends. 1, 2, 3. They concentrated all their will, pulling, straining against the very fabric of the darkness enveloping Solomon. The crystal flared brighter, sending shards of energy blasting outward. For a heartbeat, the cavern transformed into a celestial battlefield, light battling against an overwhelming black tide. But just as victory felt near, something shifted. Solomon's expression twisted, reflecting horror and doubt. "I can't," he gasped, the shadows latched tighter, feeding off his fear. "I don't deserve it." I've lost too much. No. Maria shouted back, frustration boiling over. You are not your past. Fight, Solomon. Fight. A flicker of recognition passed through Solomon's gaze, but the shadows howled in outrage, launching a vengeful counterattack. Jagged tendrils shot forward, striking at the crystal, trying to snuff out the light. Jake stumbled back, feeling dizzy as he narrowly avoided the darkness fatally clawing toward him. Redirect the energy. Don't let them take control. Jake felt a wild pang of panic rise in his throat. He focused all his strength on the crystal, channeling every bright moment he could recall no matter how small into that shining core. The light surged again, radiant waves crashing against the shadows, forcing them back. But the cavern trembled ominously, raw power reverberating through the stone. Each pulse felt like a countdown, echoing ominously beneath his feet. Keep pushing. Hold that energy. Maria shouted, her voice fierce and steady. In that moment, Jake remembered. Solomon had haunted this cavern, lived in its shadows for too long. You are not alone. He yelled, desperately reaching for Solomon's hand. We're here with you. Let us in. Solomon hesitated, caught between despair and the desperate longing for hope. The shadows writhed and hissed around him, but Jake could see at the glimmer of defiance building somewhere within the former king, a spark of the man he had once been, and then, chaos erupted. The darkness recoiled, but not without a horrifyingly loud screech that boomed off the cavern walls, rattling Jake's very bones. Shadows spiraled out, coiling around them like a tightening noose. With one last deafening roar, Jake poured every ounce of his soul into the crystal. In an instant, he felt a flood of warmth engulf him, enlightenment crashing over the chaos. The darkness shivered, hesitated, and then silence. Jake sank to his knees, breathless, waiting to see if the shadows would recede with Solomon's acceptance. But the tension remained, an unseen weight looming overhead, as though the cavern was still holding its breath. Light faltered, veins of darkness crawling back into the corners of the cavern, a stark reminder of what they faced. What did we just break? Maria whispered, fear surging anew. Jake's gut twisted, a chilling realization settling over him. This wasn't just a battle for Solomon. No, it was something far more sinister. With uncertainty gripping his heart, he whispered, I don't think it's over. What other dark truths were hidden in the shadows, and what price would they have to pay for the light? The silence was deafening. Shadows lingered, heavy in the air like a thick fog, lingering remnants of a fight that had nearly consumed their very souls. Jake's chest heaved with exhaustion, the weight of the chosen path settled squarely upon him. But now, there was a flicker, a heartbeat of light prompting him to push forward. Is it over? David's voice broke the stillness, tinged with apprehension. I don't think so, Jake replied, his breath shaky. The guardian hadn't vanished, it just lay waiting, lurking in the corners, ready to pounce once more. Solomon's form flickered like a dying flame, caught between mortal essence and overwhelming shadows. Fight back, my king. Maria urged, finding strength in her words. You've faced the worst. You can overcome this. Solomon's features twisted, torn by grief but gleaming with a new glimmer of hope. I lost too much, he whispered, his voice barely audible among the echoes of the chamber. But then, he saw them, all of them standing firm, a beacon of defiance against despair. No. You are not alone. Jake shouted, rising to his feet fueled by desperation and determination. Together, he felt their energy swell, the light radiating warmth, illuminating the darkness threatening to drag Solomon back. Join us. David implored, stretching out his hand. Take our strength and fight this. Solomon hesitated, then clasped Jake's outstretched hand, the connection sending a rush of energy through the entire chamber. Something was changing, the shadows recoiled at his touch, whispers tangled in agony, torn between the power of light and the despair of ages. As Solomon stood taller, the guardian howled, its anger echoed through the stone, a violent storm of rage. It lunged forward, fierce and relentless. You will never be free. Your past is your chain. No. Jake shouted, clutching the crystal tightly. We rewrite history. With newfound resolve, they channeled their combined energy into a single pulse, driving the light deeper toward Solomon. Each heartbeat seemed to resonate within the walls of the chamber, every flicker of brilliance pushing against the tides of darkness. They would not be consumed, they would not fall. Embrace who you are. Maria demanded, an invocation that pierced through the shadow's haze. Her voice was the spark that ignited something deep within Solomon. Suddenly, the shadows shivered, fraying at the edges, as Solomon's memories flooded back, laughter echoing through the halls, the warmth of camaraderie, love shared. Even among the betrayals and heartbreaks, a flicker of light had endured. The guardian shrieked, its form twisting in desperation. You cannot choose light. Your legacy is one of suffering. You are a monster. You are madness. No. I am more. Solomon roared, disentangling from the chains of malice that held him. I have the choice now. We all do. With a monumental pulse, Solomon pulled free from the grasp of shadows. Light exploded around them, surging forth like a tidal wave, lighting the chamber in a fierce glow that pushed against the depths of despair. The guardian screamed, its shape twisting and contorting as it was driven back, torn apart by the brilliance igniting the cave, and then silence fell. As the dust settled, clarity emerged from the chaos of rebirth. Jake stood wide-eyed, breathless, grasping at the overwhelming stillness. The guardian had been vanquished, the darkness dissipating into tendrils of smoke. It's over, David murmured, disbelief tinting his voice. We did it. The shadows danced away, revealing the bare rock of the chamber, illuminated now with a gentle glow. Solomon stood tall, a figure of terror past now mingling with the fragile hope that sprung forth from redemption. I owe you all, he said, his voice steady though layered with a deep somber weight. You sought a truth, I buried the truth I feared, but from its ashes, we rise together. Eyes softened, the group felt a flush of warmth spread through them, binding them all in solidarity. Solomon wasn't just a king now, he was a man redeemed through their strength, and they together would rewrite not just his story, but history itself. Jake inhaled deeply, feeling the petrichor of the chamber reborn. We'll share this, we'll warn others. The dark truths of the past must serve as guides into the light. As they emerged from the chamber, the sunlight shimmered on their faces, signaling a fresh start. The weight of secrecy lifted, and with it, so did their burdens. Solomon glanced back at the cavern, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. A new legacy, built on truth and courage together. Jake, Maria, and David shared a glance, a silent promise to support each other through the shadows of their own lives. They would carry this knowledge with them, a bond against the darkness that would forever remain a part of them but weaken over time. They stepped forward into the morning light and began their journey back, hearts lighter, souls intertwined, ready to face whatever new challenges lay ahead. Now, as you finish this incredible journey, it's time to take action. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will thrill your heart. Smash that like button now, each click fuels this thriving community and feeds the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Let us hear your thoughts, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything, only true fans understand the power of being part of this journey. Let us keep the story alive together.